What would you do if, 2 nights before your wedding, you discovered your groom to be in bed with another woman, a girl young enough to call you ma'am? Most people would call off the wedding, cry, break down, maybe disappear for a while until the world forgot the humiliation. But not me. I smiled. I let him believe everything was still perfect, because I was about to give him a wedding he would never forget, one that would haunt him every time he closed his eyes. When I first met Adrian, he was magnetic, the kind of man who walked into a room and everyone noticed. He had that easy charm, that quiet confidence that makes you feel like you're the only one he sees. I was working late one evening at the marketing firm when he walked in for a campaign consultation. I remember the way his tie was slightly loosened, how he smiled when he said my name. Within weeks, he became a daily presence. Coffee runs, text messages, late dinners. It didn't take long before I fell in love. For 2 years we were perfect, at least that's what I told myself. He made promises. He talked about the future, about children, about the house we'd buy together. He even told my father he wanted to be the man who never let me down. And I believed him. I believed every word that came out of his mouth. But sometimes, love makes you blind to the small cracks forming beneath the surface. The late-night business meetings, the phone calls he would take outside, the faint traces of perfume that weren't mine. I ignored it all because I wanted so badly for him to be the man I thought he was. 2 days before our wedding, I decided to surprise him. I'd spent the morning picking up our rings and ordering pastries from his favorite bakery. The plan was to drop by his apartment, have coffee together, and go through the final arrangements. I remember humming in the car, feeling like the happiest woman alive. My dress was already hanging at home, my bridesmaids were texting in excitement, and my heart was full. When I reached his apartment, the door was slightly open. At first I thought he had stepped out, but then I heard it, a laugh. High-pitched, young, carefree, not mine. I froze, holding 2 cups of coffee that suddenly felt too heavy. Then I heard her voice, light and teasing. "Adrian, what if your fiancé finds out?" My heart stopped. The air felt thick, like it refused to move through my lungs. I walked forward slowly, each step echoing louder than the last. The bedroom door was half open, and with a trembling hand I pushed it just enough to see. And there he was, my fiancé. The man I was supposed to marry in 48 hours, lying in bed with a girl who looked barely old enough to graduate college. Her hair was a mess, his shirt on the floor. Their laughter died the second they saw me. Adrian's face turned white. "Clara, this isn't—" "Wait, I can explain." But I didn't want his explanation. I didn't want his lies. I simply placed the coffee cup on the nightstand beside the bed. "You'll need this," I said quietly. "You've got a big day coming." Then I turned and walked out. No screaming, no tears, just silence. I drove home in a fog. My hands shook on the steering wheel, but my mind was strangely calm. I didn't cry that night. I sat on my bedroom floor, surrounded by wedding invitations, folded vows, and the bouquet samples I had spent weeks choosing. My reflection in the mirror looked like a ghost. Somewhere between rage and heartbreak, I realized something. He didn't deserve my pain. He deserved to feel what betrayal truly meant. And that's when the idea formed. By morning, I had already made my decision. The wedding was still on. The difference was I wasn't going to be the one humiliated this time. When I called Adrian, he sounded panicked, desperate, guilty. He begged me to meet him. He claimed it was a stupid mistake, that she meant nothing. He cried, told me he loved me. I listened, nodded, even pretended to believe him. And when he asked if we were still getting married, I smiled. "Of course, Adrian, I forgive you." Forgive. What a convenient word. Easy to say, deadly to mean. That night, while he slept soundly beside me after a tearful reconciliation, I was wide awake staring at the ceiling. I was already rewriting everything. The guest list, the seating plan, the program, every detail. I made one call after another. I changed the projection setup, made a few special arrangements, and added one more name to the guest list, the girl. When the wedding day arrived, the sun was bright, the sky flawless. I wore my gown, elegant and simple, and smiled at everyone who congratulated me. I think my bridesmaids believed I was a saint for forgiving him. My mother cried, my father was proud. And Adrian? He looked at me with eyes full of relief, as if he couldn't believe his luck. He didn't realize he was walking straight into his own destruction. The ballroom shimmered with light, the air filled with roses and violins. Every guest took their seat. Cameras flashed as I walked down the aisle, and in the back row, sitting nervously with her hair tied in a ponytail, was the college girl. She didn't know why she had been invited. Not yet. When the officiant began the ceremony, Adrian squeezed my hands. "Clara, you are my everything," he began, voice trembling. "You've taught me love, forgiveness, and faith." I almost laughed at the irony. I let him speak, let him play the part of the perfect groom one last time. When it was my turn, I smiled and took the microphone. "Before I say my vows," I said softly, "I'd like to share something special. A short video. It's a memory that shows the true meaning of love and honesty." The room darkened, the screen flickered to life, and then it played. The video. Adrian in bed with her. His face clear, his voice unmistakable. The laughter, the betrayal, the truth. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. Adrian's mother clutched her pearls. My father stood up, his jaw tight, and the girl in the back froze in her seat, her eyes wide with horror. Adrian shot up from his chair. "Clara, what is this?" I tilted my head slightly, smiling. "Your wedding gift, darling." Then I turned to the stunned audience, my voice steady, clear, strong. "This is the man I was supposed to marry. This is what he was doing 2 nights ago." The silence that followed was deafening. And then chaos, murmurs, shouts, the sound of cameras clicking, reporters recording. I didn't wait for his excuses. I didn't need to hear them. I just placed the microphone down, gathered my bouquet, and walked out, slowly, gracefully, like a woman walking away from the ashes of a fire she herself had set. Behind me, I heard his voice breaking, his mother crying, his father shouting. I kept walking. Each step felt lighter than the last. I didn't cry that night either. I just stood by my window, watching the city lights, feeling something strange blooming inside me. Peace. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't pretending anymore. And as I whispered to myself before closing my eyes, I meant every word. "You had your wedding, Adrian. Now live with your nightmare." They said revenge wouldn't heal me. Maybe it didn't. But it sure reminded me who I was before he broke me. The night after the wedding, I didn't sleep. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from reporters, messages from friends, and one missed call after another from Adrian. I turned it all off. The world could burn for all I cared. I had done what I came to do. I had exposed the truth, and now I was free. But freedom after pain feels strange. It's quiet, too quiet. I packed a single suitcase, booked the earliest flight I could find, and by dawn, I was staring out the airplane window watching the city shrink below me, along with everything I thought my life would be. Paris was the first place that came to mind, the city of love. I thought the irony was poetic. I landed to cold air and soft light spilling over the Seine. I rented a small apartment above a bakery. Every morning I woke to the smell of croissants, instead of the weight of heartbreak. For days I didn't speak to anyone. I'd wander through the narrow streets, watching strangers laugh, couples hold hands, children chase pigeons. The world hadn't stopped because of my pain. It had simply gone on. And maybe, I thought, that's what healing looks like. Learning to move with it. One afternoon I sat by the river with my journal. I wrote the same line over and over: "He doesn't deserve my hate anymore," because hate was just another chain, another way to keep him close, and I was done keeping him in my story. Still, the universe has a cruel sense of humor. 2 weeks later, I opened my phone and saw his face again, on every news site, every feed. Corporate scandal: Adrian Wells steps down after viral wedding video. He'd lost nearly everything. Investors pulled out, clients vanished, and his company's stock crashed overnight. The man who once walked like he owned the world was now a shadow on the screen. I wish I could say I felt guilty. I didn't. I only felt empty. That night he emailed me. The subject line was simple: "Please, Clara." I should have deleted it. I should have ignored him. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I opened it. The message was long, pages of apologies, excuses, regret. He said he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't breathe without seeing my face. He said he loved me, that the girl meant nothing, that he was broken without me. He begged for one last chance to explain. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed my laptop and whispered to the empty room, "You already had your last chance." After that, I started building a new life. I didn't want to be the woman who exposed her cheating groom. I wanted to be something more. So I poured all my energy into creating a PR agency for women entrepreneurs, a space where women could rebuild their image, their brands, their voices. It was poetic justice. I was taking control of other women's stories the way I had reclaimed mine. At first, clients came out of sympathy, but soon they came out of admiration. My story had traveled farther than I expected. Women who had been cheated on, humiliated, silenced, they reached out from all over the world. They didn't see a victim. They saw someone who stood up when it mattered most. One day, a young intern named Mia joined my team. She was bright, kind, and full of ideas. She told me during lunch, "Your story gave me the courage to leave my boyfriend. He kept lying to me, and I kept forgiving him. When I saw what you did, I realized forgiveness doesn't mean staying, it means setting yourself free." Her words hit me like a mirror. Maybe that was my purpose now, to remind others that pain doesn't define you, but what you do with it does. Months passed, and with each passing day, the memory of that wedding felt like a distant storm. I still had moments when I'd wake up in the middle of the night and hear echoes of that day. The gasps, the silence, the weight of my own steady voice. But it no longer hurt. It just reminded me of how far I'd come. Then one evening, as I prepared for a conference where I was invited to speak about resilience and reinvention, I received another message from him. This time, it wasn't an apology. It was a single line, "You win, Clara. You always did." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. The battle was over, and I had already walked away victorious. The conference was held in New York, a massive hall filled with women from every industry you could imagine. As I stepped on stage, lights flooding my face, I felt something shift inside me. I began with honesty. When my world fell apart, I thought it was the end. But sometimes endings are disguised as beginnings. You don't know your strength until you're forced to stand on the ashes of what you thought you needed. The room was silent, hanging on every word. I shared my story, not the scandal, but the truth behind it. The fear, the heartbreak, the moment I chose myself instead of waiting to be chosen. I told them how forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was armor. At the end, I said, pain changes you, but it doesn't have to destroy you. You can use it, mold it, let it sharpen you. And when you rise, rise so bright that the ones who broke you have to shield their eyes just to look at you. The applause was deafening. I looked out at a sea of faces, some tearful, some smiling, and realized something beautiful. I had turned my worst day into someone else's reason to keep going. Later that night, as I stood by the hotel window watching the city lights blink like tiny stars, I felt a deep sense of peace. For the first time, I wasn't defined by betrayal or revenge. I was defined by how I rose from it. A soft rain began to fall. My reflection in the glass looked calm. Older maybe, but stronger. My phone buzzed again with a message from an unknown number. For a moment I thought about ignoring it, but then curiosity won. "Still proud of yourself?" it read. I knew that tone. Adrian. I smiled. Not the bitter kind I used to hide behind. A real one. I typed slowly, yes. More than ever. Then I blocked the number and set the phone down. When I turned back to the window, I saw my reflection one last time. The same woman who once stood in a wedding gown, heart shattered, but eyes burning with quiet fire. She had survived. She had built something new. And for the first time in a long time, I whispered not to him, but to myself, "You did it, Clara. You chose you." Outside, the rain kept falling softly, washing the city clean. I stepped away from the glass, knowing that tomorrow I'd wake up to another morning, another beginning, another chance to live a life that was fully mine. And maybe that's the real story. Not the revenge, not the scandal, not the heartbreak. But the rebirth that follows when you stop chasing someone who never deserved your heart and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. Because in the end, my revenge wasn't the video, or the humiliation, or his downfall. It was peace. It was freedom. It was learning that the best kind of power isn't making someone pay. It's knowing you no longer need them to. And that right there was the real ending of our story. The day I stopped being his broken bride and became my own beginning.